Hey folks, welcome to Yoga with Helen Roscoe. I hope you're well. In this practice today, I'm going to take you through a series of inquiries that start in a seated position, and we're going to make our way up from there towards a series of postures and playful inquiries in kneeling, including some lunging. So you might find it useful to have a blanket or perhaps some yoga bricks, just so you can kind of elevate the ground when you need to. And what I'd like you to do is just come and sit in a comfortable position to begin with, and that could include resting onto a chair. So we're going to have our feet together. It's almost like a soft diamond shape, the knees slightly apart, and you wrap your elbows around the knees, and your head is a little heavy here. So it's almost like we're in this like a seated fetal shape. So you're rounding into the belly, the spine is slightly flexed, the knees are flexed, the hips are flexed. So there's this flexion that's coming, and we're taking our awareness both into the belly and also into the back. So with the breath in, just noticing how the belly kind of presses forwards into the thighs, and the breath out, settling down through your sit bones into the ground. And then noticing the breath in at the back of your lungs, the back of your rib cage, and then on the breath out, again, awareness coming down through the sit bones into the ground. So having that awareness of the space that comes with each in-breath and the settling, the arriving, the grounding that comes with each out-breath. So maybe we feel a little heavier on those exhalations as the body releases a little more fully to the earth. And maybe we're noticing a little spaciousness arising as we breathe in, back of the body, front of the body, maybe the face. And what I'd like you to do here is just start to move your jaw a little from side to side. I'm going to be inviting you through somatic inquiry. Somatics is embodied practice, just taking our awareness into the body. And some of the inquiries are more nuanced, they're more subtle. And if we can take our awareness into the body and release tension, start freeing up some pathways of movement, then when it comes to our yoga postures, there'll be a little more integration. Self-awareness, hopefully we'll have freed up unnecessary tensions in the body and found a bit more freedom of movement so that we can find those points of stability when we come into a yoga pose. So move your jaw a little, start with something small. Sighing the breath out. Okay, and bringing yourself up a little from there, let your feet come into a parallel position. And we're going to let those hands slide down towards the feet. Coming back to your breath, just noticing the breath in, noticing the breath out. You can move your head a little here. Then I'm going to slide my right hand up towards the knee on the breath in. And look over the right shoulder on the breath out, sliding that hand down again. So to the other side as we breathe in. And then forwards and down as we breathe out. And I'd like you to repeat that movement from side to side at your own pace. And just see how, as you bring your arm up towards the knee, maybe it slides a little further down towards the hip as you begin to become more familiar with the movement. So often you'll find in this approach that we start with something that's very small, the kind of smallest movement that comes, and then it gradually expands as we begin to feel more familiar, more comfortable, regulating ourselves with the new pattern. So from side to side, It's also really useful to bring this sense of touch as well. Touch can be a lovely way to come to presence, just getting a sense of how we're doing, and also familiarity. Hand on the body can be very reassuring. It helps to bring the mind back away from those branches, back to ourself, that self-awareness. So completing on the round that you're on, coming back into that rounded shape here. Just pause for a few breaths. Again, a little movement through the head. So let your hands come behind you. A little bit of space here in the chest. Lifting up here as you breathe in. On the exhale, turn the hands in, round into your belly. Shoulders are coming forwards. On the breath in, lift up almost like a turtle coming out of its shell. Emphasize the chest, turning the hands back. On the exhale, bring the hands forward, bend the elbows, round into your lower back. So breathing in and breathing out. This is very similar to pelvic tilting or cat-cow movements. You might find pressing into your feet at the top of the in-breath useful as you lift your chest up. And rounding, you're pressing away from the feet. And again, you can just complete that round when you're ready. Coming back to something more neutral, but still propping yourself up here. Now, if you find you want a little bit more height for the ground, then bringing those bricks behind you for your hands could be really useful. So feet are going to be a hip distance apart. And with the exhalations, what I'd like you to do is take your knees over to one side. So you Z-leg the knees over. And then you're looking over the opposite shoulder. As you breathe in, come back to centre. On the exhale, take your knees the other way and look over the other side. So we want to be able to feel the connection through the feet as we come back to centre on the in-breath. The knees move away. There's a little opening there across your hip. Exhale, the knees move away from you. Inhale, you're coming back to centre. Then we can swap that breath pattern over. So you come back to your starting point. I'm going to exhale to round the belly. Inhale, lift up, take the knees over, look over your shoulder on the opposite side. So exhale, round into the belly. Inhale, lift up. So you're including that pelvic tilt within the movement and also mobilizing into those shoulders as well. So the exhalation is rounding, the inhalation propping yourself up from there. And taking your time to explore, just changing, shifting that breath pattern for a different quality of experience. And coming back to centre when you're ready, finding that neutral shape once again. There might be a sigh here. A little wriggle from side to side. Bringing those feet together, and just gently inviting yourself to roll a little over your sit bones. And those feet want to be a comfortable distance from your bottom, so they're not too, you're not pulling them in really close towards you. There's a softness around those hands. The knee bend isn't deep. Inviting your hips to roll one way then the other. Okay. So I'd like you to bring your right foot underneath your left knee. Your hands come around the left shins. Take a few breaths here. Invite a quality of space in and around the crown of your head. And then bring your hands behind you. Lift both feet up and swap the legs over. So now my left foot comes underneath the right knee and my hands come around the right shin. Taking your hands behind you, swapping it over again. So we're going to find a little rhythm with this. We're taking the hands back on the in-breath, and on the out-breath, we come forwards. And swapping it over each time. And your pace might be very different from mine. So sometimes it's like, for some people, this can happen straight away, this little rhythm. And for others, there's just a bit too much going on. So if you slow it down, maybe take a few extra breaths each time just to find that rhythm, rather than trying to force a quicker pace. It has to work for you. Then what I'd like us to do is explore a twist. So as your left foot comes down, the right foot goes underneath. Bring your right hand onto the inside of your left foot, and then your left hand, onto the inside of your left foot, and then your right hand behind you. So it's left arm to left leg, right knee is bent underneath, and your right hand comes behind you. Pausing for a few breaths there as you turn. So you want to lift up your spine as you breathe in, exhaling to turn a little around that space as if towards the space behind you. Then bring your hands behind you, lift your feet up and swapping that over. So now my right hand comes to the inside of the right leg, left knee is bent underneath the right knee, and then I'm turning with my left arm behind me over the shoulder to explore a few breaths here, experiencing a quality of length and space along the spine as I breathe in, and on the exhalations turning a little around to that side of the room. So we're going to explore that at a different pace now as well. So turning on the exhalation, inhale, arms come back, feet come up, swapping it over, exhale to turn. And again, you can play around with your pace here as you go. You can slow it right down, you can speed it up depending on how you find this. And if you're not sure about the movement in between, then focusing on the twist, finding a neutral shape, and then swapping it over with the leg in a less kind of bouncy way. So this movement here is more bouncy, coming into the fascia, into the joints. But either way takes you through a very similar experience of turning. This is what we're interested in. It's finding that turning of the spine there, and the rib cage, and the shoulders, chest and the head, and once more to the other side. Okay, so come back to that neutral position once again. Take a few breaths here. Might be a little shrug of the shoulders. Release down. Moving those shoulders a little from side to side. Okay, so I'd like you to come to an all fours position. You might find it useful to have that blanket underneath your knees for a bit of extra padding. And then if you're comfortable with your socks off, it can be useful as well here just to get that extra grip on the mat. So moving into your all fours shape, we're going to find our wrists are pretty much in line with our hands. I am all over the place today with my cues. Wrists are pretty much in line with the shoulders. Knees are pretty much in line with your hips. We're going to start with a circling action. So on the in-breath, pelvis tilts forward, you're waving it over to one side, and on the out breath, rounding up through the pelvis as you stretch across your back. So on the in-breath, pelvis tilts forwards, waving it around. On the exhalation, drawing under, rounding the back. So let's explore that pattern just on the one direction, keeping that rhythm, keeping the flow there. See how your head joins in with this. Try not to keep things fixed. Let your head join you. And then I'd like you to change the direction of your circling. So going the other way won't feel quite as intuitive. Just exploring how that feels to move around in the opposite direction. Tilting, grounding, wriggling, arching, finding these words that come through experience, through what you experience. There'll be something there that you recognize. A feeling, a quality. Then I would like you to lower your elbows down underneath your shoulders, just pausing for a moment here. So your hips are stacked on top of the knees. Then we're taking the arms out ahead of us and bringing the forehead down to the ground. And your arms can either be stretched long away from you with your toes tucked under. If that feels a little too intense there, or your shoulders are uncomfortable, we want to bring those elbows down. And you might find it useful to support your head as well with a block. Just keeping the toes tucked under can help with the quality of feeling grounded in the shape. Likewise, if your hands are on the floor in front of you, you could always come to your fingers and your thumbs. Just have that little sense of active pressing into the ground on the exhalations. And softening. Just letting the ground take you here. Walking your hands close towards you. Bring yourself up from there, slowly. Resting your hips back towards your heels. Just take a few moments there. We could do a few rounds of lion's breath here. The exhalation. Sticking the tongue out, opening the eyes, looking upwards. Releasing that sound, that tension from the back of your throat. And let's come in for a moment into something that's a little more neutral. Okay, so I'd like you to take your bricks if you're using them, have them in front of you. And we're going to step the left foot forwards. Hands are coming down onto those supports. Feel free to readjust the position of your back knee. And on the in-breath, I'd like you to move away from the front foot so that leg becomes a little straighter. On the out-breath then, moving yourself forwards towards the front foot. So you're backwards and forwards. The in-breath brings space along the arms, space along the hamstring, space through the hips. On the exhalation as you come forwards, that space coming through the back hip. Invite your head to move with you as well. So we're going to find a position to settle into, not too deep here. A little bit of containment around that hip. And bringing your hand, left hand onto the block or the ground. Step your right foot out a little so you've got a bit of space here. And with your breath in, take your left arm up, rolling a little over onto the left side of the foot if that's comfortable. On the exhalation then, lower the arm down. So as you inhale, opening the arm up towards a space above you. On the exhale, bringing the arm down. So turning and then rolling, allowing your hip to open a little there on that left side as you roll over onto the edge of the foot, if that's comfortable, if that feels safe for your body. If we would like to work more with stability, maybe the ankle joint doesn't have that range, then we keep the foot on the floor for a little more stability there coming in. Okay. I'd like us to find that stable foot eventually, so that foot stays on the ground. Wave your arm up to the sky and then keep waving and waving and waving until it finds your lower back. And then taking a few breaths with that turned rib cage, shoulder, maybe your head lowering down on the exhalation, lifting up on the inhalation. And just take your time to explore a little rhythm there. And when you feel drawn to, take your arm up again, waving it all the way over. And we're going to place both hands on the ground and stepping back into a downward facing dog. So we're lifting up with the heels, lowering down with the heels. So on the in-breath, coming up. On the out-breath, moving back down. Shift your shoulders forwards, bring the knees down. Exhale, move the hips back towards your heels. Have a little rest here. And then taking your time to come upright once again. And we'll go forwards with the right leg. Again, placing those blocks on the ground to raise the ground up for you, a little more space there for your body. Exhaling to come forwards, inhaling to move away. So it's about space, making space. It's also about rhythm, forming these new patterns of movement and breath integration, connecting to the earth with gravity, so down through the feet, down through the knee. Allowing yourself to be a little heavier as you come forwards and then a little lighter as you move away from. It's about finding ease, smoothness, but also steadiness and stability. So moving away from that front lunge, stepping the right block out of the way, bring your right foot out a little, just so you have room to move your arm. And also then we can explore what's happening with that leg as you roll out onto the outer edge, if that's comfortable. Otherwise, we keep that foot on the ground. So both roots. Optional, depending on how this feels for your body. Turning the spine out. There is a sort of bounce as you come down on the exhale, and then a spring out of that on the inhale as you explore that turning. And keeping this repetitive movement can be really useful for learning the pattern, but also then for the body to be able to adapt. So then we're going to take that arm up and over, keeping the front foot more in that stable position, bringing the hand around over to the lower back, turning to that space, just having that check in there with your neck. On the exhalations, looking down. On the inhalations, gathering up. Shoulder, I can feel my shoulder moving up a little towards my ear there. Just moving that shoulder away. So a few times with that movement through the head again, just check in with the jaw, that you're not holding there in the jaw. And then when you're ready, waving the arm overhead once again. Reaching that arm over, hands come in front of you, stepping back once again into that downward facing dog. There might be some other things here that you'd like to do in the shake. So perhaps lifting up one leg at a time, any little swivels, sense of reaching up with the tailbone. Slow motion knee bend, one side to the other. And doing this sort of paddling with the feet. If we were going to continue with practice towards standing postures, then this could be a really beautiful way to wake up the feet. And when you feel drawn to, roll back, bring the knees down, exhale, take the hips back. Finding a version of child's pose that you can rest into, that supports you. Keeping your head elevated, using blocks or even resting onto the seat of a chair. Taking a few moments here to settle. And then with your hands underneath your shoulders, just slowly bring yourself upright. Coming back to sit in your relaxed fetal shape. And just take a few moments here to return, to arrive, to notice. Breath in, spacious, breath out, grounding. Coming upright in your time. And in some way, just bringing a little close acknowledgement to your practice. Okay, thank you for joining me.